They've won Super Bowls, built dynasties, and turned struggling teams into contenders. But who really are the best head coaches in the NFL right now? Here are the top 10 heading into 2026. At number 10, Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh opened 2025 at 3-0, the Chargers' best start in over 2 decades. Then the wheels came off. 3 losses in the next 4 games, and the season ended in familiar fashion. A 16-3 wildcard blowout on the road at Foxborough. 11-6 overall, a Pro Bowl tackle in Joe Alt, and a DPOY caliber campaign from Derwin James, but nothing to show for it in January. Harbaugh's broader resume, a national title at Michigan, and a Super Bowl trip in San Francisco, is bigger than number 10. At number 9, Mike Vrabel. Here's the stat that should stop you in your tracks. 4-13. That's what New England was in 2024, stuck in the AFC East cellar for a second straight year. Enter Mike Vrabel. With a second-year quarterback in Drake May and a roster heavily leaning on rookie starters, Vrabel executed a complete culture shift. New England went 14-3, matching the record for the biggest single-season turnaround by a team with a new head coach, tied with the 1999 Colts and 2008 Dolphins. They became the first team in NFL history to go 9-0 on the road, then tore through the AFC playoffs all the way to Super Bowl 60. At number 8, Sean Payton. On paper, Payton's 2025 looks elite. Denver tied a franchise record with 14 wins, won the AFC West, and beat Josh Allen's Bills in an overtime divisional thriller. They were 1 win from the Super Bowl. The team that stopped them, Vrabel's Patriots, in a 10-7 AFC Championship defensive slugfest. Payton's long-term rebuild in Denver is undeniable. He's taken a franchise that hadn't made the playoffs since 2015 and turned it into a legitimate AFC contender. At number 7, DeMeco Ryans. Ryans is 3 for 3 on playoff appearances since landing in Houston, with 2025 being his best output yet. 12-5, a 30-6 wild card dismantling of Pittsburgh, and a 28-16 divisional round loss at New England. 3 playoff trips, 3 postseason wins, 0 losing seasons. That's an incredibly stable floor for a coach who's only entering his 4th season. The problem is that Houston still hasn't broken through the divisional round. Ryans has built one of the league's most consistent young teams, but he's still looking for that signature postseason run that turns consistency into contention. At number 6, Matt LaFleur. The Packers stumbled to a 9-7-1 record in 2025 and got bounced in the wild card round at Chicago, dropping LaFleur's postseason record to 3-6. It was rocky enough that Green Bay spent the offseason weighing a contract extension versus a fresh start before ultimately locking him down. Highly respected play caller, competent enough to keep Green Bay in the hunt every single year, but stuck on the same treadmill. A wild card seed, an early exit, 3 years running. With defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley now off to a head coaching job elsewhere, the floor stays high and the ceiling stays exactly where it's been, and that's the LaFleur dilemma. At number 5, Dan Campbell. This is the steepest fall on the list. A year removed from a 15-2 masterpiece, the Lions started 7-4 as Super Bowl favorites, then completely collapsed, losing 4 of their last 6 to finish 9-8 and miss the playoffs entirely. And injuries, particularly on the offensive line and defense, played a real part in that collapse. But for a team that entered the season as a Super Bowl favorite, 9-8 and out of the playoffs, still has to count against Campbell. His identity, culture, and extreme 4th down aggressiveness are why he stays in the top 5. But when a roster that talented collapses down the stretch, it has to cost the head coach more than just fan goodwill. At number 4, Mike Macdonald. 2 years ago, he was a defensive coordinator in Baltimore. Today, he's a Super Bowl champion. Macdonald's Seahawks fielded the NFL's #1 scoring defense in 2025, then punctuated it in Super Bowl 60, putting up 6 sacks and forcing 3 turnovers against Drake May in a 29-13 victory. Kenneth Walker III won Super Bowl MVP, but Seattle's defense set the tone for this championship. And the bigger story is what Macdonald has done in just 2 seasons. Seattle hadn't reached the big game since 2014. Macdonald delivered a ring in year 2. At number 3, Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan's genius was on full display in 2025. Despite San Francisco absorbing a brutal wave of injuries, he guided the 49ers to a 12-5 record and finished 5th in Coach of the Year voting. Then came the divisional round, a 41-6 blowout loss at Seattle. That game is the Shanahan paradox in a nutshell. Few coaches design an offense better through adversity, but the hardware continues to elude him. He's taken San Francisco to 2 Super Bowls and lost both. He is arguably the most brilliant mind in football without a ring, and sitting behind two division rivals makes the NFC West pressure cooker even hotter heading into 2026. At number 2, Andy Reid. Let this sink in. The Kansas City Chiefs went 6-11 in 2025. No playoffs, bottom of the division, and their worst finish in Reid's 13-year tenure, and he's still number 2. The case for Reid is obvious. 3 Super Bowl rings, 5 AFC titles, and one of the greatest coaching resumes in NFL history. He spent more than a decade turning Kansas City into the league's defining dynasty. But 6-11 is still 6-11, and if you're evaluating coaches heading into 2026, you can't completely ignore the worst season of Reid's Kansas City career. And at number 1, Sean McVay. The Rams haven't won a Super Bowl since the 2021 season, and they just watched division rival Seattle take home the Lombardi. So why is McVay still number 1? Because at 40 years old, McVay has stacked 8 winning seasons in 9 years, 2 Super Bowl trips, and over 100 total victories. He's already established himself as one of the defining offensive minds of his generation, and somehow his teams keep evolving. With the Rams trading for Myles Garrett this offseason, McVay now has one of the most complete rosters in football entering 2026, and that's what makes number 1 so simple. But the clock to turn that roster into another ring is ticking loud.